Hi everyone, my name is Samuel Bodidia from Africa Open Science Hardware. Welcome to my mAkE talk. We'll be looking at mAkE at AfricaOSH Summit 2024, look at our policy dissemination, trainer sessions, and more. Here's the outline of my presentation. You look at the AfricaOSH Summit, particularly the 2024 summit, mAkE at the AfricaOSH Summit, the trainer sessions that were held, the policy discussions, engagement with policymakers, and the impact that was made. The AfricaOSH Summit is the biggest gathering of open science and hardware enthusiasts across Africa. Every year, we bring together students, researchers, founders, policymakers, makers, citizen scientists, and people within that ecosystem who have interest in open science together to discuss opportunities, what open science hardware offers Africa, initiatives and innovations and things that have been done. Previous summits have taken place at Kumasi in Ghana, Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and Yaoundé, Cameroon. After a short break, the AfricaOSH Summit came up, and this time around, it was held at the Academic City University in Ghana, over 68 people for both days of the summit. The focus of this year's summit was making open science hardware ubiquitous for a sustainable Africa, and we basically looked at presentations on sustainable projects, workshops on maker spaces, and things that people within the ecosystem are doing to help address some of the sustainable development goals. So we saw presentations on how to convert plastic waste into something that can be used, and also looking at the way that members can focus much of their project on sustainability in helping Africa address some of the challenges associated with the Sustainable Development Goals. As a dissemination partner on the big project, it was an opportunity for us to reach out to our community members on what the mAkE project is about and what it means to the AfricaOSH community. In line with the theme for the summit, which was making open science hardware ubiquitous for a sustainable Africa, we were looking at how we can address some of the sustainable development goals. And the goal 8 talks about decent work and economic growth. And the mAkE project is basically about how to make our maker spaces stronger and sustainable. So there is some sort of congruence between what the mAkE project is about and what the AfricaOSH community does, trying to help use open science and hardware to address some of the challenges we have in Africa, whether it has to do with employment, whether it has to do with education, it has to do with job or anything that's related to it. So that's congruence of sustainability between the AfricaOSH community and the mAkE project made it a perfect match for us to have mAkE at this year's summit. We looked at deliverables on work packages 2, 3, and 4 on the mAkE project. So we had a good presentation from Andrew Lamb. He explained what the mAkE project was all about and how makers were going to benefit from it. There was a discussion on the map of machines, the maker passport, and the distributed manufacturing network, how makers within the African ecosystem stand to gain if they are able to onboard onto the map of machines and get access to their maker passport. I remember the very line from his presentation where he said, we are getting into the era where we no more export hardwares, but we export designs. It means if you have a maker space anywhere in Africa that has the right tools and equipment, all they need is a design, and they will be able to reproduce or replicate any equipment, any device, anywhere in the world. And as an open science and hardware community, we are all for the democratization of scientific knowledge. And the distributed manufacturing network and the map of machines are just addressing some of the challenges that we've been trying to resolve. So it was really enlightening. The members could identify with what the mAkE project was trying to do, because that's what we stand for as a community. And so it was just a perfect presentation for the summit. We had a training of trainer sessions. We're happy to announce that we allowed a trained trainer to lead the session. So somebody that we had trained, Kweku Ifa, was asked to lead a training of trainers session. Kweku Ifa is a manager of the INX Maker Space. He's working on a project that could see him deliver a dozen more maker spaces in Ghana. So we thought he was the perfect person to lead the session. And yes, we were right. He delivered. He had an exceptional presentation, relying mostly on his own experiences using the Open Makerspace toolkit and how it's been beneficial in his work up to now. He shared some highlights of the book, especially the part that talks about how the business model, whether you're going to start as a nonprofit or a profit with a nonprofit leg, and all of that were very helpful for members. He asked members to go and serve as evangelists, spread the good news about the Open Makerspace Toolkit and on how it's beneficial for people that want to start their makerspaces and also for people that have already started makerspaces and how they can use the OMT as a guide to improve upon their performances, how the layouts in their makerspace, how to register the businesses and so on and so forth were very beneficial. We had 17 feedbacks from the participants that have been recorded on the Google form. We believe that these feedbacks are going to help us evaluate the Open Makers Toolkit and how we can improve upon it to make it beneficial to other people who want the toolkit. I mean, it's something, it's a tool that's going to be very helpful for community members and for people in the maker space ecosystem because it's a very detailed book and a lot of brilliant suggestions were shared and feedbacks were given and during the time of that presentation. We spent a lot of time on policy engagement. We discussed how we can engage policymakers to adopt the policy document that has been formulated as part of the mAkE project. Prior to the summits, we had engaged the Ministry of Environmental Science, Technology, and Innovation to be present at the summit so we can have a physical engagement with them on the policy document and what it means to the science, technology, and innovation space in Ghana. They could not make it to the summit because of a last-minute engagement, but happily they granted us an audience after the summit. But in the summit, we taught participants how to engage policymakers. And there was a role play session, which was one of my highlights of the summit. The participants basically had to show us how they were going to engage policymakers in their space. The picture you see here is a gentleman called Jeremy Appa. He's a robotic engineer and he's helping to establish robotic labs across several senior high schools in Ghana. From the summit, he was taught how to engage policymakers. And guess what? He's already started. He sent an information to Joseph of the Africa Makerspace Network and myself that he's already secured an appointment with the Ministry of Education. And his quest is to engage them to make makerspaces part of our senior high school education. Being a robotics engineer and already engaging these schools in the establishment of robotic labs, he thought he could use that engagement, that prior engagement he has with the ministry as a springboard to get them to, adopt having or establishing makerspaces across senior high schools in Ghana. And his reasoning is that if these schools have makerspaces, it will be easier for him as a robotics engineer to build that culture among students so that they would love to work with robotics, they would love to do more practical work and sessions. And for us, it's a very big success story that less than a week after we built his capacity on how to engage policymakers, he's already taken that up and he has that appointment with the Ministry of Education. We'll be happy to share the outcome of that engagement with the ministry. But on our part, we had the opportunity to engage Mr. Nashiru Salifu, who is a Deputy Science, Technology and Innovation Director at the Ministry of Environmental Science and Technology. So he was officially assigned to us by the minister to engage us because he was the most appropriate person to discuss the policy document with. And his initial impression is that it's a very important piece of information that is going to be useful in what they are doing at the ministry. We have the chance to discuss things about the makeup, the policy document, the makeup passport, the map of machines, the initiatives that they are taking place at the ministry, the initiatives that they are leading at the ministry to ensure that maker spaces become a part of the Ghanaian ecosystem. It was over a 40-minute engagement. A session was recorded and you'll be happy to share with you. But for us, it is just the beginning of the conversation. We believe that we've established a right network within the Ministry of Environmental Science, Technology, and Innovation that we can leverage on further policy engagement. We can leverage on further initiatives that we'll be leading either as Africa Open Science Hardware or the mAkE project. He was particularly happy about the Open Makerspace Toolkit because it feels like a ready-made document for people who want to start makerspaces or innovation hubs in Ghana. And he's requested for all these documents. Already we've shared with him a summary of the policy document, but we're going to share all these other documents that we discussed with him, and you would have further engagement. Talk of impact. The summit gave the mAkE project a national coverage. We had GH1, a national TV network, covering the summit, and they provided a platform for members and partners on the mAkE project to speak on what the mAkE project was all about. They spoke to myself, they spoke to Andrew, they spoke to other participants of the summit. And we believe that this will make it easier for us to engage other stakeholders, because most of the time when things gain national attention, it's easier to get people at the top to talk about it. So that's a very good impact that we made. We saw the mAkE project reaching out to about 60 new people that previously did not know about the mAkE project, have now heard about it. The good thing is most of them are representatives of other communities. So our expectation is that whatever the learned at the summit is going to be shared with the communities that they represent. And we had about 29 people partaking in the training of trainers session on the Open Makerspace Toolkit. We had 17 feedbacks. And so the numbers trained and the feedbacks are going to be integral in the evaluation of the toolkit, improving on the content, and also reaching out to people and communities that need these materials, this tool set, to be able to lead whatever innovations that they are doing at their end. All in all, it was a very good summit. It was a very good engagement. We had the opportunity to meet with community members and also extend the good things that the mAkE project is doing to them. But as a community, as the Africa Open Science Hardware, this is just the beginning of the conversations. In our monthly community calls, we are going to have more in-depth engagement with members, especially those who could not come to the summit. We are going to discuss segments of the policy document, tell them about the maker passport, the map of machines, and all the other elements of the mAkE project that's relevant to what we want to do. Because if you want to make open science hardware ubiquitous, if you want to have a sustainable Africa, if you want our community members to contribute towards meeting the Sustainable Development Goals, then the mAkE project is one of them, because having a decent work and economic growth satisfies Goal 8, and that is what we sought to achieve in the summit. It's a pleasure to share this with you, and thank you.